The version of Lost in Space you watched, Dr. Smith, the Robot, Danger Will Robinson, was added to a show CBS had already bought after the original pilot was finished. That pilot existed without any of those characters. CBS purchased it, and the series you grew up with was rebuilt around elements that were never in the original design. We're going into 12 things about Lost in Space the production record documents, but that never made the credits or the publicity. The craft decisions, the casting layers, the creative pivot that cost the show its future, and the season written and never filmed.
You're probably thinking, what kind of man would use a parent's love for his own preservation?
Number 1. The pilot CBS buried. What the production record shows is this. Before Lost in Space aired a single episode in September 1965, CBS held a complete, fully produced pilot titled No Place to Hide, a pilot that did not include Dr. Zachary Smith and did not include the robot B9. Neither character existed in the version of the show the network originally acquired. CBS and Irwin Allen decided before broadcast that the series needed a human antagonist to generate conflict and a mechanical character to anchor the science fiction spectacle, and the show was rebuilt around those two additions before Season 1 went into production. The No Place to Hide footage wasn't discarded. It became the foundation for the two-part Season 1 premiere, with new material featuring Smith and the robot cut in around it, and was never broadcast on its own. The Smith and robot dynamic that defined the show for 3 seasons was a creative revision layered onto a show that had already been sold. The characters you remember were an addition, not the original vision.
Let's go in. You first and turn on the lights.
Number 2. The man inside the machine. The robot B9, whose warning cry became one of the most quoted lines in American television, was not a radio-controlled device. Actor Bob May physically wore and operated the costume for the entire run, inside a suit that was heavy, poorly ventilated, and physically taxing. The voice wasn't his. Announcer Dick Tufeld recorded every line of dialogue separately, the 2 tracks combined in post-production. May supplying every gesture, Tufeld every word. Viewers experienced a single entity that was actually 2 performers never simultaneously performing as the robot. What made that performance matter connects directly to the person May was performing opposite most of the time.
Safely aboard.
Number 3. The upgrade that broke the budget. Lost in Space premiered in black and white. Before Season 2, the show converted to full color. More than a technical adjustment, it was a simultaneous cost increase across every department. Sets needed more elaborate dressing, costumes needed redesigning, and alien environments that had been serviceable in monochrome had to be more fully built in a medium that exposed their limitations. The per-episode budget increased significantly, and the color conversion is documented as a contributing factor. By Season 3, CBS was paying for a substantially more expensive production than the one it had commissioned in 1965, and that cost structure would become the stated basis for what happened next.
What is all this nonsense about?
I'm looking for a guilty conscience, Dr. Smith.
Number 4. The designer who did it twice. Robert Kinoshita, who designed the robot B9 for Lost in Space, was the same man who had designed Robbie the Robot for the 1956 MGM film Forbidden Planet, one of the most celebrated mechanical designs in American cinema and a direct influence on how the entire genre imagined artificial characters. 2 of the most recognizable robots in 20th century American popular culture came from the same designer's drafting table, roughly a decade apart. For viewers in 1965, Robbie was already a known quantity from theaters 9 years earlier. Kinoshita was, in a sense, working in conversation with his earlier creation. Both robots turn up in corners of mid-century American science fiction you might not expect.
There are arguments of logic, find them.
I don't think it will work.
Number 5. The crossover nobody announced. That connection between Kinoshita's 2 designs wasn't only conceptual. In the Season 1 episode, War of the Robots, Robbie the Robot appeared on Lost in Space as a guest character called the Robotoid, placed directly opposite the show's own robot B9. 2 of the most iconic robot characters in American science fiction shared the same frame. This was possible because the Robbie costume was available to the production. The same suit went on to appear in productions across the 1950s through the 1970s, one of the most frequently reused prop assets in Hollywood science fiction history. For audiences in 1966, it registered as a genuine pop culture event, one designer's entire legacy sharing a scene with itself.
I think that is very funny.
Number 6. The hero audiences already trusted. Guy Williams, who played Robinson family patriarch John Robinson across all 3 seasons, wasn't an unknown quantity when CBS cast him in 1965. He'd starred as Zorro in the Disney series of the same name from 1957 to 1959, 2 seasons on ABC that made him a household name, with exactly the family audience Lost in Space was targeting. Williams arrived on the Jupiter 2 with built-in authority that didn't need to be constructed from scratch. The casting was deliberate. The audience's trust in John Robinson as a competent, decent man was in part trust they'd already extended to the same face in a different costume. There was a similar dynamic at work with the youngest member of the family.
You ran the last 300 yards in 3 minutes.
Number 7. Mumie's other face. Billy Mumie, who played Will Robinson, the earnest, science-minded boy who became the show's moral center, was already one of the most recognizable child actors in American television when Lost in Space premiered. He'd appeared in multiple Twilight Zone episodes, most memorably in the 1961 installment It's a Good Life, in which he played a child with the power to wish people into oblivion, widely regarded as one of the most unsettling performances in that series. For adult viewers in 1965, there was a quiet double register to Mumie's presence. The face they associated with genuine menace from 4 years earlier was now the show's most sympathetic character. No publicity material mentioned it. No episode ever acknowledged it.
I'm way out, man. Like the rest of you cats.
Number 8. Harris rewrites Smith. Dr. Zachary Smith, as originally written, was a Cold War saboteur, a foreign agent who reprograms the robot to destroy the ship and is accidentally trapped aboard at launch, designed to be written out early. Jonathan Harris understood instinctively that a cowardly, verbally inventive comic foil had more long-term value than a functional villain, and over Season 1, rebuilt the character from inside the performance, softening the menace, adding the elaborate insults and comic cowardice that made him watchable week after week. By Season 2, Dr. Smith was functionally the lead of a show nominally about reaching Alpha Centauri, a transformation executed by the actor, not assigned by the writers. Which brings us to the question at the center of what happened to the show.
I wish you'd go away. You've been acting very strange lately, Dr. Smith.
Number 9. The turn Allen chose to make. Irwin Allen had conceived Lost in Space as a science fiction adventure modeled explicitly on the Swiss Family Robinson, a family structure story set against America's genuine investment in space exploration. Season 1 held close to that premise. Allen then made a deliberate choice to lean into comedy, spectacle, and increasingly outlandish Alien of the Week plotting, centering the show on Dr. Smith and the robot, rather than the family's actual mission. By Season 3, the original premise had been largely displaced. Allen's creative choice, not a network mandate. The show Allen had sold was not the show he chose to make, and that gap left the series unable to survive when ratings pressure and cost arrived together.
As you wish. But consider my suggestion.
Number 10. The invisible performance. The robot B9 wasn't conceived as an emotionally resonant character. It was designed as functional science fiction hardware, a warning system, and a tool. What transformed it into a character audiences genuinely cared about was the specific physical performance choices Bob May made inside the suit across 83 episodes. Gestures of hesitation, of loyalty, of something that read as protective affection toward Will Robinson. Production notes document the close working relationship between May and Billy Mumie on set. The chemistry between Will and the robot, the show's most discussed relationship, was built through a real connection between 2 performers, one of whom the audience could never actually see. Number 11. The unfilmed season. When CBS delivered its cancellation decision in 1968, the production wasn't winding down organically. A 4th season was actively in development, scripts already written. The cancellation came at the end of Season 3, which closed with Junkyard of Space, made with no knowledge it would be the last episode ever filmed. It doesn't function as a finale. The Robinson family never reached Alpha Centauri. The story simply stopped. CBS cited declining ratings and rising production costs, and the per-episode budget increase, accelerated by the color conversion, was a documented factor in that calculus. What those scripts contained, whether the Robinsons made it home, whether Smith found any resolution, whether the robot's story had an ending, is not documented in any source currently available.
But just for the record, I came in here to check the helium-nitrogen ratio.
Number 12. The attempt to bring them home. 30 years after CBS canceled Lost in Space, a theatrical film bearing the same title was released in 1998. With a reported budget of approximately $80 million, Gary Oldman played Dr. Smith, William Hurt played John Robinson, Matt LeBlanc played Don West, with original cast members June Lockhart and Mark Goddard in cameo roles. The film performed modestly, got mixed reviews, and a sequel never happened. What it demonstrated was how thoroughly Lost in Space was tied to the specific performers of the original series, especially Jonathan Harris's interpretation of Dr. Smith, built so completely from inside one actor's instincts that it resisted transfer. The show Allen had rewritten away from its original premise, canceled before its story could resolve, turned out to be irreplaceable in the exact form it had taken. Lost in Space began as one show, became another through deliberate choices, and ended before either version could find its way home. Here is what no available record answers: the season 4 scripts that were written and never filmed. What did they contain? Did the Robinsons reach Alpha Centauri? Did Smith get any kind of reckoning? Did the writers believe they were writing an ending, or just another season? If that final chapter ever surfaced, would it resolve what the show became, or only what it had originally intended to be? Tell us what you think that ending should have been. If Lost in Space is your kind of material, unfinished stories, production histories that reward a second look, there are more episodes built exactly this way. The Jupiter 2 is still out there,